Syne. It's an old Scottish song about old friends and good times, but it's come to have the meaning of celebrating both old and new friendships. For that reason, it's usually sung on New Year's Eve. Ask any American, it doesn't matter if they're of Scottish descent or not, and they'll tell you that the song which is most associated with New Year's Eve is Auld Lang Syne. I like the song, and I thought we could talk more about it as we study the stative passive. You may have watched one of my earlier lessons on the passive. In any case, let's review what it is. Look at these examples. You're going to see that the passive expresses an action, but the focus is on the receiver of the action, not the performer. The song is called Auld Lang Syne. The emphasis is on the song, not who's calling it something. It was written a long time ago. Again, the emphasis is on the song, it, not who wrote it. Here in the US, it's usually sung on New Year's Eve. Once again, the emphasis is on it, the song, not who's singing it. And lastly, I'll share a recording that was made by a friend of mine. I named the performer, but the emphasis, the focus, is still on the receiver of the action, which is the recording. In this last example, we named the performer. You can name the performer of the action with a by phrase, by whom. But the passive doesn't necessarily include a by phrase. In the first three examples, I didn't include one. There are different reasons why. The song is called Auld Lang Syne. It's not important to name who the performer is. It was written a long time ago. Maybe it's unknown who wrote it, so the performer is unknown. Here in the US, it's usually sung on New Year's Eve. Well, it's obvious who the performer is, people in the US. So we only use a by phrase if it's important to name the performer. Otherwise, it may not be necessary because it's not important, it's not known, or it's obvious. What's the form of the passive? The song is called, it was written, it's usually sung. I'll share a recording that was made. The passive voice uses the form of be plus past participle. The past participle is that third form of a verb. For example, sing, sang, sung, past participle. Be plus the past participle. And then if we want to name the performer, we use a by phrase. The form of be tells you the verb tense. We can form the passive in the past, present, or future. The stative passive is a special kind of passive construction. We're no longer expressing an action. Instead, we're describing a state, a condition. The form is the same. Here are two examples. And you'll see a form of be plus the past participle. A form of be plus the past participle. The song is associated with New Year's Eve. Robert Burns is known as the author of the lyrics. There is no action being expressed here. Instead, the past participle is helping us describe the subject. Associated describes the song. Known describes Robert Burns, a Scottish poet. That means that the past participle functions more like an adjective rather than a verb. And another important thing to note is because we're not expressing an action, there's no possibility of naming the performer with a by phrase. Instead, we have a form of be plus the past participle and a preposition, and not necessarily by. These are two examples: associated with, known as. Other examples you may know: dressed in, excited about, annoyed with. All of those are examples of past participle plus preposition, with the past participle being used to describe the subject.
Here are some combinations of past participles and prepositions. You'll find a more complete list in a good grammar textbook. Let's read through this one. Acquainted with, associated with, composed of, crowded with, dressed in, excited about, filled with, known for, made of or from, prepared for, remembered for, tired of.
Now I'd like you to look at 3 sentences. We're going to compare an active sentence to a passive sentence, and then the passive to the stative passive. If you recall, I talked about Robert Burns, and I said that he is known as the author of Auld Lang Syne. Well, it's true that Robert Burns is a well-known Scottish poet, but the truth is he wrote only some of the words to Auld Lang Syne. In this first sentence, our verb is wrote, and this is an active structure. The subject is the performer of the action. He wrote. Burns did the writing. He wrote only some of the words. In our second example, we're also talking about writing, an action, and we name the performer, but the emphasis is not on the performer, but the receiver of the action. The subject is the words. Only some of the words were written by Burns. So the focus changed, but in both sentences, we're still describing an action. We're expressing an action. So second sentence is passive. Now look at the third. Burns was devoted to saving Scottish culture. This is true. He wrote down words to Auld Lang Syne, words that he had heard, and then he added to them. He was writing these words down because he wanted to preserve this old Scottish song. In fact, he did this for other songs too. He was preserving Scottish culture. So here we have was devoted, but we're no longer expressing an action. We're describing Burns. We're describing his character. He was devoted to saving Scottish culture. This is an example of the stative passive. Let's try some exercises.
Exercise 1. Identify the statement that uses the stative passive. 1a. The musician composed his masterpiece over the course of 2 years. B. That opera was composed by Mozart. C. Music is composed of notes. Where's the stative passive? In C. 2. The holiday meal was prepared by the entire family. B. The restaurant is prepared for up to 200 guests on New Year's Eve. C. The president prepared a speech for the New Year's celebration. Where's the stative passive? Where is there no action being performed? In B, prepared for describes the state of the restaurant. 3. A. Robert Burns is remembered for his poetry. B. Robert Burns is remembered by many, not just the Scottish people. C. I fondly remember New Year's celebrations with my grandparents. Where's the stative passive? Where is there a past participle describing the subject? In A.
Are you ready for another exercise?
2. Choose the correct preposition to complete each question. Then, answer the question. If you're studying with a partner, discuss your answers. 1. New Year's Eve is fast approaching. Are you excited about the upcoming holiday? 2. What kinds of places are usually crowded with people on New Year's Eve? 3. In your home country, which foods are associated with the celebration of the new year? 4. Are you acquainted with the poetry of Robert Burns?
Let's try one more exercise.
Exercise 3. Use the verbs in parentheses to form the stative passive. You will need to add a preposition in each item. 1. Can you complete the statement with the stative passive? The answer? My favorite holiday cake has a sweet filling that is made from cream of wheat. And this is true. Those of you who know Russian or Ukrainian desserts might know the layered cake I'm talking about. 2. Answer. If you're tired of big parties and lots of noise, then celebrate the new year at home with just a few close friends. 3. Answer. New Year's Eve celebrations are usually filled with laughter, music, dancing, good food, and wishes for the coming year. 4. Answer. There must have been over 50 guests. They were all dressed in their best clothes to welcome the new year. I'll now share a recording of Auld Lang Syne. Remember that Robert Burns wrote down the lyrics a long time ago, in 1788 to be exact. Today there are variations in the lyrics, and you'll also hear different styles in which the song is sung. But I think you'll really enjoy the interpretation of a friend and colleague of mine. Listen once, then replay the song and try to sing along.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never call to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne.